Welcome to the deep dive. Stepping into your 40s, it often feels like this kind of interesting point, right? You've got a lot of life lived, lessons learned, and well, you naturally start thinking about what's next. So that's exactly where we're going today, looking at how to navigate this decade with maybe some renewed purpose and confidence.
Exactly. Yeah, think of this as a focused look at your 40s.
Yeah.
Our main theme is this idea of a growth mindset. Now, it might sound simple, but it's actually a surprisingly powerful way to unlock potential, really boost your confidence, and, make progress on those goals you might have.
Absolutely. And we've been diving into some really interesting stuff for this. We've looked at different viewpoints, different strategies, all focused on personal growth during this pretty significant life stage.
Right. So our mission really is to pull out the most useful, actionable insights from what we found. We want you, the listener, to not just get the idea of a growth mindset, but to really see how you can weave it into your life starting now in your 40s and, well, beyond.
Okay, so maybe we should start with the basics. Like, what is the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset?
Well, yeah, it essentially kind of boils down to how you see challenges and effort. Someone with a growth mindset, they hit a tough spot and think, okay, chance to learn here, chance to get better. They sort of lean in.
Mm.
Whereas someone with a fixed mindset tends to believe their basic abilities, their intelligence, it's all pretty much set. So putting in effort can feel risky.
Yeah.
Like it highlights something they lack, maybe.
And the numbers around this are, well, pretty telling. Our sources suggest something like 90% of people leaning towards a fixed mindset actually fear effort.
90%, wow.
Yeah, that's a huge number, potentially holding back from trying new things. It's just because it looks like hard work. Loads of untapped potential there, you know? It really is. And conversely, those with a growth mindset, they're much more likely. The figure we saw was around 40% more likely to see those exact same challenges as like a good thing, an opportunity to grow.
Right.
It's just a fundamentally different way of looking at things, and it has real impact.
Precisely. And when you think about midlife, the 40s specifically,
Yeah.
this perspective shift, it becomes really important. Sure, new challenges might pop up, unique ones even, but it's also this incredibly rich time for development. You've got all this experience banged.
Mm.
And adopting that growth mindset is kind of the key to unlocking even more personal evolution.
It's almost like consciously deciding to ditch those older, maybe limiting thought patterns instead of thinking, oh, this is just how I am. A growth mindset lets you see aging not as, decline, but as this ongoing chance to learn, adapt, maybe even redefine yourself. And this is where it gets really cool. It's not just about positive thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have to talk about neuroplasticity here. It's fascinating science. Our brains aren't fixed, rigid things. They can actually adapt, reorganize, make new connections, form new habits, literally throughout our lives.
So rewiring your brain isn't just a metaphor.
Not at all. It's a real neurological process.
Oh.
And cultivating a growth mindset, that's like a powerful catalyst for that process. Think of it like pathways in a garden. Fixed mindset says the paths are worn in, that's it. Growth mindset knows you can always blaze new trails, strengthen paths with practice.
So practically speaking, navigating your 40s, what does this mean day to day? The benefits seem pretty solid based on what we looked at.
Oh, definitely.
We're talking things like being more resilient when stuff happens,
Right.
having a generally more optimistic outlook, and even like actual improvements in mental and physical health.
Yeah. And on top of that, enhanced self-efficacy, which is basically your belief you can actually do the thing, and a real boost in confidence. Plus, and this feels very relevant now, a better handle on managing stress, navigating those challenges that inevitably come up in this life stage.
Okay, something else that often happens in the 40s is this reevaluation of success. What does it actually mean to me now? Did the sources touch on that?
Oh, yeah, big time. What's really interesting is this potential shift away from, the external stuff that might have seemed more important earlier on.
Like job titles, salary.
Exactly,
Yeah.
or ticking certain societal box. The sources suggest that in the 40s, people often take a deeper look, more introspective, thinking about core values, well-being, expressing yourself authentically. Big events like the pandemic really pushed a lot of people to rethink priorities too.
It's like asking what really brings me fulfillment now. And the crucial link, I think, is how that growth mindset supports this whole redefinition process. If you see challenges not as roadblocks, but as chances to grow, figuring out your new version of success feels less daunting, more empowering, actually.
Exactly. That growth perspective lets you tackle those big questions, try new things, maybe pivot a bit without being paralyzed by the fear of, failing. And we even saw a great practical example. Sheena Mystery's approach, setting small daily goals, taking breaks, prioritizing self-care. It really shows that idea of redefining success on your own terms, maintaining drive but avoiding burnout.
That's super helpful, very relatable. Now, this next one might seem a bit out of left field, but one source talked about embracing change through style,
Yeah.
personal style. How does that fit in?
Well, if you think about the bigger picture of evolving in your 40s, how
Mm.
you present yourself, your style, it can actually be a really concrete, immediate way to build confidence,
Yeah.
to project an image that feels genuinely aligned with who you're becoming. It's like an outward signal of that inner growth.
Like saying, here I am, the updated, more confident version.
Remember?
The source mentioned midlife crises too, noting they're talked about a lot, but statistically maybe only affect, what, 10–20%?
Something like that. But even if it's not a full-blown crisis, that urge to evolve, feel good, align the outside with the inside, that's pretty universal, right? And the practical tips were pretty straightforward. Find stuff that makes you feel genuinely confident and comfortable. Maybe invest in some quality, timeless pieces that reflect you. And importantly, don't be scared to experiment a bit. Keep it fresh. It's about using your appearance as a tool, really, to back up that inner sense of growth and self-assurance.
Okay, so we've got the what and the why of growth mindset in the 40s. Let's get practical. What are some concrete things we can actually do to cultivate this? Our sources laid out 5 key strategies, right?
That's right. The very first one is about actively setting learning goals and consciously seeking out new experiences. This hits directly on that point about maybe feeling less passionate sometimes, or more hesitant to step outside the comfort zone in your 40s.
Right, intentionally pushing yourself to try new stuff, even small things. Okay, what's number 2?
Second is actively reframing situations, trying to approach things with a beginner's mind. Remember that feeling of starting something totally new, no baggage, no preconceived limits. It encourages openness, curiosity.
I like that. Giving yourself permission not to know everything right away, to be a learner again. What's next?
Third, shift your focus a bit. Value the journey, the process itself, not just the final outcome. It's about appreciating the growth, the learning, not only fixating on hitting the target. That builds resilience, helps you see setbacks as, well, just steps, not failures.
That makes sense. Takes the pressure off, lets you appreciate the progress. Okay, 4th way.
Fourth involves intentionally practicing gratitude and making self-care a real priority. Our sources stressed how just consciously practicing gratitude regularly can really boost well-being. And self-care, well, that's the foundation, isn't it? It gives you the energy, the resilience to tackle challenges with that growth outlook. Can't pour from an empty cup.
Totally. Got to take care of yourself to have the capacity for growth. And the 5th strategy.
The last one is about actively seeking feedback and willingly taking on challenging tasks. Feedback, even when it's tough, is invaluable for growth. And tackling hard stuff, it builds confidence and reinforces that core belief. I can learn, I can adapt, I can improve.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the sources even used a business analogy. Companies with learning cultures see up to 30% more revenue growth.
Wow.
Yeah, it really highlights the power of embracing that ongoing growth.
It certainly does. Now, a big hurdle for many in their 40s can be those age-related limiting beliefs creeping in. How do we tackle those? The sources had advice, right?
Yes, and this is so important. It's surprisingly easy to internalize messages, maybe from society, maybe from our own past, and start thinking age limits our potential for growth or learning. And that stat we saw, that around 60% of older adults believe this, that's quite sobering.
It really is like putting these invisible ceilings on ourselves. So how do we break through?
Well, the key, as we've been saying, is actively cultivating that growth mindset and building resilience. Consciously challenging those limiting beliefs when they pop up. The sources suggested practical things, like maybe daily affirmations to reinforce positive self-talk. And making a real effort to stay active, stay healthy for physical well-being hugely impacts our mental state.
And having support matters too, right?
Absolutely. Seeking out supportive relationships, friends, family, mentors, maybe a coach provides that crucial encouragement and sometimes accountability. And remember, the sources linked a growth mindset to being happier, about 30% happier, they reported. That's a pretty good motivator right there.
It sure is. Okay, flipping the coin from limitations to the 40s also mean you've got this huge bank of life experience. How do we leverage that for growth?
This is where it gets exciting. Think of all that lived experience as your asset, your superpower almost. It's this rich source of lessons learned, skills honed, unique perspectives gained. By actively valuing that past, you can get clearer on your purpose now and make, frankly, better decisions moving forward.
It's like having this amazing internal database to draw on. What kinds of skills are we talking about here, typically?
Well, the sources pointed to things like leadership skills, better communication, definitely increased emotional intelligence, and that crucial resilience we keep mentioning. You've navigated complex situations, managed relationships, overcome setbacks over the years. Those are incredibly valuable transferable skills you can consciously apply now.
So, by recognizing and using those strengths, What are the payoffs?
You often see a real increase in confidence, better decision-making based on past learning, improved emotional intelligence, which helps in all interactions, and ultimately a stronger sense of purpose and direction for this next chapter. It's about realizing your journey so far has already given you an amazing toolkit for what's next.
That's a really powerful way to look at it. Shifting focus to the future again, continuous learning in your 40s seems vital. What did the sources say about creating new learning paths?
Oh, totally vital. In today's world, staying curious, committed to lifelong learning, whether that's new digital skills for work or exploring something totally different just for you, it's essential for staying relevant, engaged, and, well, continuing to grow.
And what are some practical ways to actually create those learning pathways?
The sources suggested things like, obviously, online courses, there are so many now, workshops, seminars, seeking out expert advice in areas you want to develop. But importantly, it's not just about career stuff. Creative pursuits, hobbies, they're huge for self-expression, building confidence in new ways, adding richness to life. And it ties back to that growth mindset point. People with that mindset persevere more through learning challenges.
Right, so it's about being intentional, setting goals, seeking challenges, maybe even mapping out a personal development plan and checking in on it.
Exactly. Being proactive about your own growth. Recognizing learning isn't something that just stops at a certain age. It's a continuous, rewarding journey.
Okay, and we know growth doesn't happen in a vacuum. How do our relationships factor into fostering a growth mindset?
Hugely important. Surrounding yourself with people who are supportive, encouraging, maybe even growth-oriented themselves, it makes a massive difference. There was a fascinating stat in the sources. Self-compassion, being kind and understanding towards yourself, is linked to a 50% increase in pursuing personal goals.
Wow, 50%.
Yeah, it really shows how important both that internal support and external support systems are.
So the people we choose to have around us really do impact our growth. What are the benefits of cultivating those kinds of relationships?
Well, they can boost your motivation, your engagement with your own goals, offer different perspectives on managing stress or solving problems, enhance your emotional intelligence through those supportive interactions. And it's often mutual, too. Your commitment to growth can inspire others around you.
That makes total sense. Okay, finally, as we navigate the 40s with all this wisdom we've gathered, how do we keep that sense of excitement, of curiosity, of possibility alive? The sources mention balancing wisdom with wonder.
Yes, this is a really nice synthesis, I think. You've got all this wisdom from experience that's your foundation, but it's just as vital to actively keep cultivating wonder, that curiosity, that openness to new things. That balance is what keeps motivation and inspiration going.
So it's not about throwing out the lessons learned, but staying open to new ones. How do we practically strike that balance day to day?
A lot of it comes back to the core themes we've discussed. Consciously keeping that growth mindset focus on effort, persistence, learning from setbacks, engaging in creative activities that spark your imagination, and actively seeking new experiences with genuine curiosity.
It sounds like finding that sweet spot grounded in experience, but still open to all the possibilities life keeps offering.
Precisely. That powerful mix of experience plus fresh eyes. It leads to sustained motivation, keeps you intellectually stimulated, and ultimately makes for a much more fulfilling, vibrant life.
So as you navigate your 40s, the big takeaway here is this isn't a time to just level off. It's a launch pad for even more growth. And embracing that growth mindset is probably the most powerful tool you have for navigating this really transformative time with confidence.
Exactly. Don't just rest on what you've done. See this decade as a chance to redefine what success means for you right now and unlock even more of your potential.
And with that thought, maybe take a moment today. Think about one small, actionable step you could take to embrace that growth mindset a bit more. Maybe it's finally looking into that skill you've been thinking about, or reframing a challenge you're facing as a learning opportunity, or just reflecting on how your definition of success might be evolving.
Because ultimately, growth isn't really a destination, is it? It's this ongoing, enriching process. By intentionally cultivating that mindset, you're setting yourself up for a more fulfilling, purposeful, and yeah, even more exciting life no matter your age.